All right. So, you guys, I want to ask you to give a really big, warm welcome to Miss Justine Brown. She is a wonderful friend and a colleague, and I have asked her here to share with us some information about what she does and why she does it and her secret sauce. And it really touches back to all of the stuff that we've been talking about, with the program of why diet's so important and why it makes an impact on your pain. So, Miss Justine is a coach, a food coach, a love your food kind of coach. And Justine, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I do firmly believe that you should love every single bite that you put into your mouth. I always say I'm starting a food joy revolution because there is this kind of association that lots of people have, this idea that healthy is kind of like, oh, that it's not necessarily going to be the most enjoyable way to eat. And that does not have to be true at all. The things that taste the best for you can also be having these incredibly powerful effects inside your body for your health.
And you know that you talk about it doesn't have to be true, and I just keep getting this image of like Brussels sprouts coming my way, like so tell us a little bit about why you chose to get into this whole food plant-based
For sure.
lifestyle.
First of all, I am just going to defend Brussels sprouts, though, for the poor maligned Brussels sprout. It's like the number one vegetable that sat on people's plates, and they were threatened. You're not getting dessert unless you eat your Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts can also taste delicious. They are not the exception to the rule. It's just the way that they're usually cooked that makes them have this bad reputation. But anyway, yeah. So how I got into this? Well, there was a real personal motivation for me. When I was growing up, both of my parents suffered from some pretty like devastating lifestyle diseases. So my dad died very young, in his
Hmm.
early 60s, from a heart attack, and my mom was diagnosed with cancer when she was in her early 50s. Now, as I said, my dad did pass away. My mom has fought a very long 30-year battle with her cancer, with her brain
Good for
cancer.
her. Good for
And
her.
yeah, it's phenomenal, but it has defined the last 30 years of her life. So I mean, both my parents worked really hard to get to a place in life where they were just starting to get into the good stuff. Retirement's peaking around the corner, all the work and the saving they had done, and it just didn't really turn out for them how they hoped. And I think that actually happens to a lot of people. And
Mhm.
I, for one, do not want to live my life with this assumption that old age is an inevitable steady decline into losing your freedom, your independence, and all that stuff. Like, I believe exactly the opposite can be true,
Mhm.
that the way that the choices that you make around your lifestyle, and my particular area of expertise is nutrition, make a huge difference.
Mhm. Mhm. And so, I mean, knowing that diet's so important for the average person, how
Mhm.
would they know that this might be a good route to go for them?
You know what? I'm so glad that you asked that question, because I think there is this conception out there that there's one diet that's good for certain people, and there's another diet that might be better for other people.
Mhm.
The diet that is like there really is no debate over it, is that the food that you eat, as close as you can eat to whole food that has not been processed, so it hasn't had any of the goodness taken out of it, and it
Mhm.
hasn't had a whole lot of crap added into it. The food that you can eat that is as close as possible to its whole state, that comes from plants, those incredibly nutrient rich plants, is the best, it's the healthiest choices for everyone, like
Mhm.
regardless of what your current state of health is, and what your background is or anything like that.
Mhm. Mhm. And so, when you started eating this way, what kind of changes did you notice in your own body, and how quickly did you start to see change?
Well, okay, so I would love to say that I saw the light and I made all these dramatic changes and I noticed all these changes, and my clients get those results. But for me, it was a much longer gradual transition. It was a lot of learning along the way, and and things changing along the way. But what I can say, what I can give you is the sort of, like the where I am now. And I can tell you that in my early 50s, I have way more energy, more ability to compete in, sporting events, that kind of stuff, than I did in my 40s, and that even in my 30s, I would say. I don't have any chronic pain. Like I used to do that thing, when you get off the couch and you give that involuntary groan. That doesn't happen to me anymore. It doesn't happen to my husband anymore. It's just, it's those quality of life issues that can really, really make such a difference. And then the other side of this is I was one of those people through my 30s and 40s after I had my kids, I lost and gained the same 20 pounds over and over and over again, tried them all the diets. And since I started eating this way, just got to an ideal weight and don't even think about it anymore. It's that part is really magic as well. Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part as a coach, is to try to get people to understand the idea of value, or borrowing against the value of your health by choosing what you put in your body poorly.
Yeah.
And really the goal is to live long, well, right? And because aging isn't for weaklings, aging is not for the wimpy. And I don't know one old person that would say, hell yes, I would do it all again. And I'd slide right into that coffin as crippled up and as pathetic as I could be.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that ever says that, right? Everybody says, if I had only known.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you touched on earlier as well is something that is like the cornerstone of what I work on with my clients, and is the number one fast track to success, even though it's not really a fast track. It's the slow track, but it's the sure track. And that is consistency. It is not about, winning the Olympics and doing everything right for one day or 1 week or 1 month even. It is about what you can consistently commit to doing day in and day out for the rest of your life. And so that is a very different mindset, I think, than a lot of people are used to when we do live in these sort of quick solution world of okay, what can I do? What can I do to fix this? And then I'm going to go back to what I was doing before. That's really that's not a good long-term solution.
Exactly. And the hard part is, and I find this, and I don't know about you, but trying to keep my clients motivated to keep working on that consistency piece.
Yeah.
How do you help your clients with that?
Well, okay. So a lot of what I talk about in my program and with my clients is food joy, and joy is an incredible motivator. And a lot of times when I first start talking about food joy, people think, that I'm describing, that fleeting sensation of putting something good in your mouth and it tastes good. But food joy is so much bigger than that. Food joy, I mean, if you think about your relationship with food is something that you eat, most of us 3 times a day, not even including snacks and stuff like that. So it can be something that is a touchstone of joy 3 times every single day. So if you are looking forward to that meal, and you're not necessarily just looking forward to the food, though that part is important, it's the ritual of how you prepare the foods. It's the rituals of how you serve the foods. It is the rituals of the social environment with which you eat that food. All of that is part of food joy. And so my number one piece of advice that I would give to somebody is, if they are trying to make significant changes in the way they eat, find some sort of a peer, a mentor, somebody that you can laugh with, that is going to hold you accountable and not enable you, and is somebody that can share food joy with you. And that right there is what's going to keep you motivated. That makes sense.
It's so hard. It's so hard to really find what works for some people, and trying to really harvest that, because what we're really talking about when we're talking about these type of changes, right, is changing old habit, changing very ingrained stuff that you have done so repeatedly throughout your life that you don't even think about it anymore. And eating
Yeah.
is one of those things that we don't think about. I mean, we think about what we're going to make, but we don't think about what eating is, all of the social context around it, all of the emotional context around it, all of the well-being context around it. We just don't think about that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right. And what's really critical about what you just said there is that so much of our relationship with food is in that sort of the reptilian part of our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And when we try to change it, we usually are trying to outthink it. We're trying to, to use that willpower part of our brain, drive it home, force it through, I call it that white knuckle willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that you can make long-term changes is when you change the wiring in your brain. And yeah. And so, I mean, there's no shortcuts around that. I mean, that's the truth of it. You can't just like snip one wire and rehook up the next one. It takes time, it takes repetition, it takes consistency to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know that, we both have busy stuff going on in our days, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but one last little question. For anybody that's interested in wanting to learn more about eating this way, this lifestyle, or to get started or to maintain any type of pearls of wisdom that you might have for my ladies.
Well, yeah. So, okay. So what I would say is to take the time to really set yourself up for success, because it sounds so simple on the surface to eat whole food that comes from plants. The reality is that in the world that we live in right now, that is really full of food products more than actual real food, is that you will be a fish swimming upstream. And you can power through, as I talked about before, for a few weeks on that, but that's not going to be a lifestyle shift that you're going to affect. You need to really set yourself up for success. And what I mean by that is do lots of reading, really be sure that the direction you're going makes sense to you. Mm-hmm. And then, as I said, find those peers, find that support. Do not try to do this alone, because it won't work. Mm-hmm. And then always keep in mind that consistency trumps perfection every single time. So you do not have to start with, like the last meter over the marathon finish line. What you want to do is you want to think of, like your first 100 meters, then your next 100 meters, and, sorry, my Canadian is showing there, your first 100 feet, and then your next few hundred feet. And think of it as a journey, and take it one segment of that journey at a time, so that you feel like you can be solid and then move on to the next step.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You're just helping me reiterate everything I keep telling these guys about. Keep it on, keep it on, keep it on. Every step forward is a step forward. It doesn't matter.
Just keep showing up for it. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. My love. Thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward to having you back again another time.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
And if anybody's interested in touching base with you or learning more about you or your program.
Yeah, well, again, with the Food Joy, I have put together, it's about an hour-long talk that I do. It's called the Food Joy Formula. So foodjoyformula.com. And that is, as I said, it's about an hour-long presentation. You can jump in, find out what that's all about. It basically talks about how to avoid the pitfalls of trying to start eating this way, and then how to make it a lot easier on yourself instead by following the Food Joy Formula.
Okay. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you.